pressure to perform. Her smile was a masterpiece of condescension, a perfect performance for the bridesmaids hovering behind her. My mother didn't meet my eyes. She was too busy checking the lighting on her latest Instagram story. They saw a quiet consultant in a plain navy blazer. They didn't see the $8,000 Loro Piana weave of that blazer, and they certainly didn't see the notification on my phone. The acquisition was complete. I wasn't just a guest. I was the landlord. Growing up, we were a study in performance art. Sloane was the face, a travel influencer who traded in the currency of filters and fabricated joy. I was the infrastructure. While she was perfecting her pout for brand deals, I was in my room, coding the very logistics engines that would eventually power the luxury travel industry. My parents, Arthur and Claire, treated my obsession with data like a tragic hobby. "It's nice that you have your little projects, Maya," my father would say, his eyes never leaving Sloane's latest magazine spread. "But your sister is building a legacy." The legacy was a lie. 3 years ago, I watched them take out a high-interest predatory loan to fund Sloane's lifestyle, because they were terrified of a dip in her engagement metrics. They told me I didn't need the family trust because I was so independent. Independent was their code for disposable. They didn't realize that while they were chasing the appearance of wealth, I was acquiring the reality of it. I didn't just build software, I built a holding company. By the time Sloane was picking out her Amalfi lemons, I had already quietly purchased the distressed debt of the very bank that held the deed to our family home. I wasn't just independent. I was the one holding the leash. The heavy swinging door creaked open, and my father, Arthur, stepped into the kitchen. He didn't look at the crate I was sitting on. He looked at me like I was a malfunctioning appliance. "There you are, Maya. Stop pouting. We need you to sign this." He slid a thick document across the stainless steel prep table, right next to a tray of discarded lemon rinds. It was a personal guarantee, a bridge loan to cover the final $200,000 for Sloane's reception. "Don't be difficult. It's for the family name. You've had a free ride on our reputation long enough." The audacity was a cold splash of water. He was asking the daughter he'd hidden in the pantry to subsidize the daughter he'd put on a pedestal. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply stood up, smoothing the invisible wrinkles in my blazer. "I've already signed everything I need to sign today, Dad," I said, my voice as flat as a dial tone. I picked up a heavy black envelope from my lap and placed it on the table. "This is for Sloane. A wedding gift she'll never forget." I walked out, not through the service exit, but through the main ballroom. The guests stared as I cut a path through the white orchids and silk drapes, walking straight toward the pier where my boat was waiting. I didn't look back. The fuse was already lit. The ceremony didn't just stop, it fractured. As I stepped onto the mahogany deck of my private launch, the wind carried the first sharp notes of a scream. Back at the altar, the black envelope had been opened, but it didn't contain a check. It was a notice of foreclosure and a cease and desist at M.Y. Sisters. Perfect. Amalfi Villa wasn't a villa anymore, it was a liability. 3 weeks ago, my holding company, Aegis North, had finalized the acquisition of the resort's primary mortgage. While Sloane was busy tagging luxury brands in her stories, I was auditing the villa's parent company. The gift was a cold, hard reality check. The venue's insurance had been pulled because of my father's fraudulent credit applications. The most delicious part? The booking engine Sloane used to manage her influencer lifestyle was a white-labeled version of my own proprietary software. At precisely 6:15 p.m., I hit deactivate. Suddenly, her flight home, her hotel vouchers, and her brand-sponsored honeymoon didn't exist. In the world of high finance, an audit isn't just an inspection, it's an autopsy. I had spent years being the invisible architect, and now, I was watching the structure I built collapse on the people who thought they owned the sky. The resort manager didn't approach my father with the usual Italian warmth. He approached with a clipboard and a legal team. I watched through binoculars from the water as the owner's suite balcony, the one Sloane had spent 6 months planning for her first morning as a bride, photos, was stripped of her designer luggage. The manager's voice carried over the quieted crowd, crisp and clinical. "Mr. Sterling, the new ownership has terminated the hospitality agreement. This property is no longer a wedding venue. It is a private residence. Sloane's scream was the sound of a narcissistic collapse. It wasn't the sound of a broken heart, but the sound of a broken brand. She looked at the influencers she'd invited, the people she called friends, and saw them doing exactly what she taught them. They were filming. They weren't helping, they were capturing the content. My father tried to roar, his face a blotchy purple, but my security detail stepped into the light. These weren't resort bouncers, they were my employees. Maya, he shrieked toward the sea, his voice cracking. You can't do this. We're your family. I didn't blink. I just watched as the lights of the villa flickered and died. I had cut the limit. The performance was over, and for the first time, the stage was dark, the boat moved further into the darkness, the lights of the Amalfi Coast shrinking into a distant, flickering memory. My phone buzzed on the mahogany seat beside me, a frantic, incoherent text from my mother. How could you do this to us? We're ruined. You're a monster. I didn't feel like a monster. I felt like a woman who had finally stopped paying for a play she never asked to attend. I picked up the phone, and with a single thumb press, I blocked every number associated with the sterling name. Legacies aren't what you inherit from people who don't see you. They are what you build when you finally stop waiting for their permission. My father's generation spent 40 years trading on a name that was hollow inside. I spent 10 years in the mud, building the steel and the code that would eventually replace them. If you've ever been seated in the kitchen while someone else took credit for the meal you cooked, this is your sign. Stop trying to earn a seat at a table that was built to exclude you. Go out and build your own.